Hello and welcome to Gnoll Way Home. This is a new visual novel that, as you can probably guess, has to deal with gnolls, which are just big, stinky hyenas. Um, Pretty much the only thing I can tell you, without really spoiling it, is that you are a gnoll against your will. That's all that I'm going to tell you. But yeah, it's also drawn by, well, the sprites are drawn by Dead Stray Bear. I think that's how he goes by. So if you've seen their artwork, then you can know what to expect. But yeah, so yeah, without further ado, let us begin Gnoll Way Home. I'm such an idiot. That's the first thing that comes to my mind as I find myself facing Oblivion. It's so empty, so cold. There's just nothing forever. Is this what it's always going to be like? There really isn't anything that comes after? Well, at least I can hear myself think. Wait, that's not a good thing, is it? Just alone with my thoughts for eternity. Now, this is hell. Please, wake up. Oh, thank goodness. You can't do this. The voice pleads tearfully, breaking and trembling. He sounds hoarse from sobbing. I don't recognize him, but he's my only lifeline to the world of the living. Please. I feel like I'm being pulled towards him when he speaks, somewhere far, far away. Compared to this vast emptiness, it feels like a whole other world. You can't leave me. I feel a deep pang of compassion for whoever this is. And I don't want to leave either. I'm not ready to go. But what can I do? I focus with all my might, trying to do something, anything to show that I'm here. With all that effort that I can muster, I manage to pry my eyes open just a sliver. Just enough for a blurry, unfocused glimpse of him. He gasps, eyes shining and full of tears, and I feel his grip on me tighten. As I lay eyes upon him, I feel a deep longing that I can't fully explain. I don't know who he is, but he's so gentle, so tender. I feel him clutching my hand, telling me everything's going to be okay. I can barely make out what he's saying, but just hearing his voice is soothing. I try to respond to him, but all that comes out is a weak, breathy gasp. Save your strength. Just stay here with me, please. You'll get better. You will. We'll go back to the village. We'll rest. We'll have soup. I have no idea what he's talking about. Does he know me? This feels wrong. His voice breaks as his tears return. It's not fair. I can't help but agree. I want to console him. I want to tell him not to cry. I don't even know him, but it's obvious how much pain he's in. I want to stay here with him. Why do I feel this way? He's a complete stranger. I can't think straight. My eyes fall shut. I just can't keep them open any longer. Darkness reclaims me as I hear his panicked shouting. No! You need to stay awake! But I can't respond. I can't stay with him. The whole world goes quiet. I feel time slip away from me. Damp falls upon my body. A soft warmth caresses me, but then it's gone. Chill sets in, bitter and biting. Pressure around my limbs, around my throat. Dragging. The smell of noxious chemical fumes. Soft muttering. Chanting? It's too much. And then, nothing. You are in a forest, a deep one, hazy and hard to place. Colors you've never seen before shimmer through the air. It hurts to look at them. The trees around you bend and sway in ways that don't feel natural. They bow to form archways, leading you on your path. You follow the trail, unsure and unsteady, but driven by duty. You have to find him. The clearing you emerge into looks unfamiliar. Your path becomes less certain. Unsettling lights of those same unusual colors flicker and dance in the canopy above, lighting your way in place of stars. Dense underbrush shifts in crowds around you, making you feel surrounded. Quickening your pace, you feel pricks of pain as the dense brambles slice at you in your haste. Unearthly sounds warble through the dense tangle that envelops you. Whatever lives down here can't be friendly. You feel your heart racing in your chest. He could be in danger. A particularly overgrown piece of vegetation looms menacingly before you. With your vision blurring, its shape resembles that of a towering beast. Your breath catches in your throat, afraid to make a sound. Pinpricks of illumination from the ghostly lights above shine through it. Or are those eyes? It shifts and turns as you approach. Or was it always facing that way? You can't tell. A howling wind passes through. The trees shake like the rattle of bones. It's not safe here. You run. But not far. The undergrowth trips you up. It feels as if it lashes out and ensnarls your feet, bringing you low as you can't escape. You feel the wind knocked out from your lungs as you land hard. Something wraps around you, preventing you from reclaiming any air. Looking up, you're met with dozens of eyes sprouting from the thick, tangled brush that coats the ground. They stare at you, unblinking. They know that you're not meant to be here. You're too slow, too stupid. They've just been waiting for you to fall. You feel the roots that surround you tug you slowly down into the earth. They suffocate you, writhing the air from your lungs and the life from your body. The more you struggle, the tighter they bind you. As they close in above you to seal you in this grisly casket of vegetation, the last thing that you see before they fully block out the light is those eyes staring down at you. I bolt awake, launching myself upright in a cold sweat and gasp for air. I'm alive? Probably. Okay, that's a start. I try to get my breathing under control. That nightmare was really intense. Looking around, I strain my eyes to get a good measure of my surroundings. It seems like some kind of hut from the sounds of the birdsongs outside. It's out in the wilderness, maybe. Rough, unfinished walls and thatched roofing above, and all manner of simple tools and containers scattered about. Light streams in from behind a curtained opening, illuminating some kind of kitchen or workshop along the far wall. Breathing in, I feel the harsh sting of chemical fumes in my lungs. But it feels like I've been suffocated in it for quite a while already. I must have been here for how long? As my bleary eyes scan back across the room, I'm startled when I notice a figure slowly creeping up from the shadows. The figure scampers closer with frightening haste. The greasy-looking beast eyes me curiously as I gasp and scoot back against the wall behind me. His proximity brings in a potent musk that stings my eyes, the scent of unwashed animal mixed with strange herbal aromas. He wheezes out a raspy noise before speaking in a scratchy old voice that makes my skin crawl. It rises. My eyes widen as I realize this creature is actually addressing me. And I can understand it. Tell me your name, lad. His tone is friendly, or as close to it as he can manage given how terrifying his voice is. But should I really trust him so readily? I'm not sure what to tell him. There is actually no default name, so I'm gonna go with my hyena's name. I'm Emilio. The creature's ears fall as he frowns at my response. I'm pretty sure that's not supposed to be him talking. At the same time, I hear a shuffling behind him. One of the curtains dimming the light from the building's entryway is pushed aside. There he stands, looking at me with a fearsome glower that makes my stomach drop. That looks like my persona. I just need to dye the hair and the back mane green. That's my persona. The old beast crowding me turns to greet him with a welcoming smile. Ah, there you are, lad. Did you get the... He's silenced by a writhing glance and palpable tension. The younger beast strides past his elder to approach me. It's him, the one that I dreamed of, but he looks so cold and distant now, like the light has gone out of his eyes. All that remains is a smoldering bitterness that flickers into disgust as he looks at me. I'm so wrapped up in studying his expression that I don't notice what he's doing until his hands are around my throat. I reflexively reach up to stop him, but after hearing a brief snap behind me, my hands go limp. I slump back down, unable to move my body no matter how much I try. I gasp and stammer in shock, my voice deeper than I expected. What? Left helpless before these beasts, I feel myself starting to panic. As I gasp for air, I realize that I can still move my head at least. What did you do? The smaller beast scrunches up his nose in disgust as I plead for information. He reaches for a strange leather cord that's strapped around his wrist and tugs at it to ensure it's secured tightly. The older beast finally returns to my side, looking down over me. A demon caller, lad? Do you really think? Of course I do, Oppa. It can't be trusted, you know that. The vitriol in his bark momentarily makes me relieved that he isn't focused on me for that moment. Though now I feel bad for the ragged old beast he's shouting down. He's gone, Oppa. That thing killed him, and now it's puppeting him around like a parasite. We don't know that, Tav. Not for sure. Tav and Oppa. So they have names. Are they talking about me? I manage to crane my neck downward, unable to move a single muscle beneath it. What I see down below is difficult to swallow. My entire body is covered in thick, shaggy fur, ruddy shades of brown that drift down into a lighter, creamier blend towards my underbelly, where a simple and tattered loincloth covers my nethers. Thick, powerful muscles adorn my arms and legs. They give way to rather large paws, each complete with a full set of dark, leathery paw pads. The toned physique continues across my chest. Those bulging pectorals look at odds with a rather sizable hairy gut further down my abdomen. Jaw agape at this form, I realize my face must look similarly hairy and savage. It's strange that with such a powerful bestial body, I still feel so weak and helpless right now. Try as I might, I can't move anything below my neck. Is this the work of that collar that they mentioned? Please, I don't understand. They both turn to look at me, Tav wincing at the sound of my voice. Rest now, lad. Tav shoots the larger Gnoll a smoldering glare before Oppa turns to address him. He's no danger to us now, lad. Let him get his bearings. The boy looks back to me, appraising the fear in my eyes, before grumbling and reaching to loosen the cord around his wrist slightly. As he does, I feel command of my body slowly return to me. I gasp and reach up for my throat, confirming the collar's presence. But as I do, my stomach drops and I get the distinct feeling that messing with it isn't going to end well. Get him up and ready. I want to make it back before dusk. The younger beast departs in a huff, leaving a tumultuous silence in his wake. The older beast sighs as he watches Tav depart before returning his gaze back to me. Sorry about that. Emilio, was it? Yeah. He perks up noticeably at my reply. I'm still not sure how much that I can trust him, but he seems to be forthcoming at least. There's a million questions that I want answered, and I stumble over them trying to get one out. Where am I? And why am I I point down and gesture to myself, hoping that gets the message across. Opal looks me over, sighing to himself. You are safe now, lad. But you are not you anymore. That isn't a very helpful explanation. I grow a little frustrated and try to push for a more digestible answer. Then what exactly am I? The old beast shrugs. Demon. That word makes my heart sink into my stomach. Demon? What do you mean? His gaze grows distant as he fails to answer. Hungry. The old beast turns away from me, hobbling over to the workshop-looking area on the far side of the hut. Should feed you. He mutters to himself, seeming like he's lost in a daze. I still have questions, even more now in fact, but I don't know how much I'm going to get out of him. I might as well try to get up, now if I can. Climbing to my feet, I find myself a bit unbalanced as my heavy gut flops down and jostles before me. This body is weighed a bit differently than I had anticipated. I take a few unsteady steps. My feet feel like they bend backwards at first. But my body seems to remember how it's supposed to walk on its own, as long as I'm not thinking about it too hard. I feel an added weight behind me and look over my shoulder to see a shaggy tail emerging and curling up to support the loincloth tied around my waist. Boil and 3 shakes. I turn my attention back to the old beast mumbling to himself. I approach slowly, peering over at what he's doing. He's slowly stirring a pot of ominously opaque slop, humming to himself in a grumbly tone. I feel the fur prickle on the back of my neck. What are you making there? My inquiry seems to snap him back to attention, and he gazes down to survey his handiwork. Meal. He acquires a rough-looking pseudo-spoon and ladles some sort of thick, greenish paste into an empty bowl, before turning and offering it to me. No, I'm not. A loud grumble interrupts me, my stomach protesting as I get a whiff of the stuff. Though the thick fog of strange herbs still hangs heavy in this place, my nose manages to single this out as something edible at the very least. And I imagine it's been a while since I've eaten anything. I look up at his expectant expression, and it's hard to refuse. Tenuously, I take the bowl and the implement that's now stuck fast in his offered slop. This is not going in me. I can see him squinting as he tries to survey my reaction, so I decide to take a gamble on his poor eyesight. Pretending to scarf down the meal, I end up making overwrought lip-smacking and swallowing sounds to sell how much I'm enjoying it, like I'm entertaining a child at a tea party. He seems pleased by this, relieved in fact. I can see the tension melt away when the old beast lets his shoulders drop down a bit. I try and refocus the old-timer now that I've been fed, discreetly discarding the bowl nearby. Already I feel my stomach growing resentful at such a waste. Thank you. Very kind of you to feed a demon. He gives a soft wheezing chuckle as he responds. Demons are people too. At least I think so. I pause to consider how to gently pry some answers free without showing my hand. I don't know a damn thing about this place, these people, or anything really. But just coming out and saying that would be suspicious, right? Let's try and cover the basics at least. And if I'm a demon, then you guys are... Gnolls. I don't suppose you have many where you come from. His tone becomes more cheerful as I keep up this line of questioning. Where is it that you think I'm from exactly? Hell, of course. Right. Of course. And what do you know of hell? It's a realm mired in sin and cruelty, burning away while its people toil in endless misery. Well, that sounds about right. So, how did I get here? He tilts his head, pausing in a moment of confusion. Wasn't that your doing? You possessed young Gash here. Gash? Well, that's a hell of a name. I didn't intend to. Is that so? Well, it's not unheard of. Oh? So there may be others like me out there. Used to happen more often, but nowadays the Empire puts demons to the stake as soon as they hear word of them. Sends them back to hell where they came from. Not what I want to hear right now. Isn't that a bit severe? I'd say so, but frightened people take drastic measures. Am I really so scary? He looks me over, chuckling heartily. Not as you are now. But without a collar, you might end up like the others. The callous disregard for life, the unspeakable power they wield, the wanton destruction they sow. They treat our world like a game. At least, that's what the Empire says. I cringe as I imagine the sort of demons that end up getting sent here. I'm nothing like that, I assure you. And the collar ensures that. I rub at the collar as he mentions it, and I get that prickly feeling of doom again when I consider trying to rip it off. What does it do exactly? Keeps you from lashing out. Even considering hypothetically raising a fist makes me feel a bit woozy. Like that strange paralysis I suffered will come flooding back if I try. This is a lot to take in. Aye, lad. It must be rough. Before I realize it, his paw is on my shoulder. It's more comforting than I expected. I can feel his warmth, and it unravels a bit of the tension that's being building within me. I take a deep breath, trying to get my head straight, and that's when I notice his smell again. Breathing in through my nose gives me a powerful dose of him. And it's not so overwhelming this time, now that I am a bit more used to it. I close my eyes and focus on parsing it. It's like unraveling individual threads of aroma from a big ball of funk. There's a strong earthy smell at the core, clearly his natural musk. But surrounding it are some familiar strands of herbal aromas. Lavender, rosemary, vanilla, mint, sage, and quite a few more I don't recognize. And beyond that I can smell how they're layered and the patterns they weave. I don't really have the language to describe it. It all combines together to form a complexly textured, distinct smell. I almost feel like I could pick it out of a crowd if I focused on it. When I open my eyes again, I see the old Gnoll, much closer now, leaning up to sniff that broad snout of his at my neck. It's only now that I realize how much smaller than me he is, standing at least 2 heads shorter. He'd looked so big when I first woke up. But more importantly, he's just brazenly sniffing me. I pull away a bit, feeling myself blush, but I hope that I've got enough fur to hide it. He chuckles softly, sighing to himself, before he speaks up. I expected brimstone. I realize that he must have a pretty sensitive nose as well, then. It must be a Gnoll thing. Instead, you just smell like him, but different. That's not very descriptive, but I suppose that I'd be hard-pressed to succinctly describe Opa's particular smell. Our moment is interrupted by a dramatic clearing of the throat from outside. You best not keep him waiting, lad. I take a deep breath and prepare myself. Hopefully he's had enough time to cool down a bit. The cool, shaded confines of Opa's hut gave way to hot, humid air outside. The surrounding greenery is dense and wicked-looking. Most of the plant life looks close to something that I recognize, but just different enough to leave me feeling a bit disorientated. Tav leans against the side of the hut. I realize now that he was probably close enough to hear our entire conversation. He does look like he's calmed down a bit, but seeing me puts him right back in that foul mood. It hurts to see him like this, after he was so gentle in my dream. Wait, Was that even a dream? What are you gawping at? My heart catches in my throat. I'm pretty sure anything that I say is just going to upset him even more, but leaving him hanging doesn't feel right either. I'm sorry? He seems legitimately surprised by the apology, but quickly tries to hide it after his initial reaction. I'm not really sure what's going on, but it seems like I'm to blame for this, so... You're damn right you are! I find myself growling a bit in frustration. Look, I don't know what happened, but I want to help. He takes a step forward and thrusts a finger up towards me. He's even smaller than Oppa, barely more than half my size. I know what you're up to, demon. Your tricks won't work on me. I'm speechless. You're going to do everything that I say until we fix this. And how do we do that? By getting Gash back and sending you back to hell where you belong. That stings, but I can't really argue. If me just being here is displacing someone else, maybe that's for the best. Okay, yeah, I owe you that much. He squints at me, as if trying to scan for signs of deception. Just take it easy, okay? I hate seeing you like this way. How dare... Tav and I both pivot in time to see Oppa emerge to join us. Something's missing. Shall we, then? All of Tav's consternation melts away as he's left stammering and averting his gaze from the geezer's junk. Oppa, your clothes? Hmm? I can't help but stare, dumbfounded. Oh! It's plenty toasty out today. No need to bundle up. Judging from Tav's reaction, he seems accustomed to a bit more modesty than this. But you were just dressed. Oppa waves a paw dismissively. Boy, you spend too much time in the Empire, but if you insist, I'll bring the old rags along for the journey. Tav cautiously turns around, trying not to gaze at geriatric Gnoll gonads. What do you mean? We'll be going with you, lad. Me and the boy have been meaning to take a trip into town anyway. Speaking of which... The old Gnoll looks around, squinting again, as he struggles to make out his surroundings. Where is he? He went to dump his gate after we got out of the womb wood. At this point, I have no idea what they're talking about. Ah, could you be a dear and fetch him for me, then? You know how prone he is to distraction. Taff groans, then takes a deep breath, looking between the two of us before at last relenting. Fine, and then straight to the village. Be ready when we get back. He sets off in a huff again, starting to make a habit out of it. I turn to look at Oppa in concern, noticing a smirk on his face as he catches my gaze wandering. But soon I feel that prickling at my neck again, getting more intense the further away Tav gets from me. Hurriedly I hustle to catch up with him, nearly stumbling as I struggle with these big, dumb paws. The sensation fades as I get closer. I eye the leather strap at his wrist he was messing with earlier. Must be the leash to my collar. Looking it over, I figure that he could probably give me some more slack if he unwound it a bit more. But I don't think asking for that would go over too well right now. Heading into the forest, we travel in silence for a time. Now that I actually have some time to think, my mind wanders to thoughts of escape. Can I really shake him? Getting too far from the leash seems to activate my collar, and trying to remove it myself or forcing him to would probably drop me too. I could try diplomacy or deception, but that's what he's already anticipating. He's so convinced that I'm some sort of demonic trickster that'll go on a rampage the second that I'm off his leash. I'd probably just... Well, I don't know what I'd do. I don't know anything about this place. I don't have anyone or anywhere that I can go to. I'm on my own, really. Same as him now. My thoughts keep circling back to that point. He's alone because he lost someone important, and I'm the cause of that. Should I really even be thinking about escape? Shouldn't I be trying to make things right? If we can get the other guy back, then I don't know what would happen to me. Apparently my anxious thoughts have been manifesting as audible whinings. I don't realize this until I spot his ears swirling back towards me, accompanied by a soft, agitated growl. I steel myself to try and stay silent. Hopefully some peace and quiet will improve his mood. Then I can probe for more information when he's not so grouchy. I have to admit, I'm feeling a bit better myself out here in the fresh air. This forest just smells so lively, way better than being cooped up back in Opa's shack. I do my best to survey the sights and sounds of the deep greenery, trying to build a mental map of the place. But there's just too much to take in. I'd get lost on my own for sure. Hopefully Tav knows where we're going. As we pass by tranquil streams, I catch a glimpse across the other side, noticing that rich, verdant greens of the forest begin to fade into strange, violent hues. For a moment I think that I can see something moving over there. As I squint to get a better look, a strange tightness builds in my chest. This feels familiar. It feels wrong. That color. Could it be that place? The fur stands on the back of my neck, and I feel that tightness escalating into a palpable sensation of dread. A sharp whistle draws my attention back to the trail, and I realize that I'm nearly out of leash range. I steal one last look back across the stream. There's nothing there, but that ominous feeling remains. I shake my head to clear it, hustling to catch back up. Things are slightly more normal back on this side of the stream. I see glimpses of small critters in the bushes and trees now and then. They look familiar enough at least. When I make an effort to breathe through my nose, an absolute concave of rich scent overtakes me. Every plant, every animal, even the paths and streams, they all smell unique. I feel familiarity with some of them, my brain dredging up similar associations like tasty, yucky, danger, or fun for some. It's like I'm digging into this body's scent memory. The most familiar smell of all, though, is him. I take a deep whiff when a breeze casts me downwind of him, better understanding the nuances of the fragrance that I'd smelled before. I can almost feel his name on my lips when I smell him. It makes me excited, like a pet reunited with its handler after a long absence. It's hard to describe, but he smells much fresher than Opa. Maybe that's a factor of age, or maybe he just actually bathes. Whereas the older Gnoll's scent was layered with fermenting herbs, Tav's feels closer to nature. I can smell the wind upon him, the gentle breeze after it rains. A little bit of fruit, I think, and a hint of flowers. It's comforting. I nearly run him over without realizing that he stopped, but catch myself just in time. He's looking up at a tree whose branches hang over us, scrutinizing a cluster of fruits upon it. I can already smell how delicious they are, so without even thinking, I reach up to grasp an overhanging branch to bring it lower. When I look back, he's withdrawn a leather-bound journal from somewhere and appears to be taking notes, index claw coated in ink and moving with impressive precision. So they do grow on this side. He plucks one of the strange crimson pear-shaped fruits from the lowered branch, studies its shape briefly, and produces a rough sketch of it in his journal. I grab one as well before releasing the branch. Do you catalog plants? Not just plants, everything I can, really. They had countless books like this back in the Empire. The wealthy even had entire rooms for storing and reading them. But the Gnolls out here don't have that luxury. They pass everything by maw, so it's easy for knowledge to get lost or broken over time. He seems to get frustrated with his sketch, scribbling over it and clapping the journal shut to put it away. I guess I really shouldn't bother. It's not like this is going to help anyone. That dejected look on his compels me to find a way to distract him from such dour thoughts. So, these are safe to eat then? My nose is telling me yes, absolutely. What are you waiting for? But I want to make sure, just in case. Of course. Everything's safe for a Gnoll. I find myself already biting into the surprisingly tender morsel before I can respond, savoring its intense flavors, very acidic, with a good mix of sweet and bitter. What do you mean? Gnolls can eat anything. You really don't know this stuff? I try to take offense at that, but I know that I must look pretty dumb right now with how greedily I'm gulping down this delicious fruit, feeling its juices drooling down my muzzle. Like, anything? He rolls his eyes and starts walking again as he explains further. I reach up to hurriedly gather up an armful of bonus fruits for the road before he gets out of range. Anything we can swallow, yeah. It's our gift or whatever. Hard to starve that way. Can't get sick from most things either. I hurry after him, dipping my muzzle down to munch on the armful of fruits I cradle as I digest this information. That sounds like quite the gift. I guess, but even that gets turned against us. Trash eaters, scavs, bottom feeders. People can be pretty cruel. He sounds particularly hurt by those words as he repeats them, looking as if he's dredging up some painful memories. Well, sounds to me like they're jealous. Taff shrugs, trying to let it go. Whatever. They don't matter anymore. We got out of the city to get away from all that. We? Me and Gash. I bite my lip, realizing that I've wandered back into uncomfortable territory for him. Why did things have to turn out like this? This isn't what I wanted. I hate this awkward silence. Maybe it would be better to lean into this rather than tiptoe around it. Hey. We'll get him back, all right. He takes a deep breath before responding, sounding worn down. Just stop it, okay? I know you don't actually care. You don't need to pretend for my sake. His words sting, but maybe he has a point. Even though I feel responsible for what happened to Gash, Tav is the one that I am more worried about. Maybe it's just because he's the one right in front of me. It's harder to feel for someone that I've never even met. Man, why am I devoting so much energy to try to make him feel better anyway? It'd be a stretch to expect him to be thankful given the state of things, but he could at least be civil. He probably hasn't even once stopped to think about things from my perspective. I didn't ask for this to happen, and if we do manage to get Gash back, then that means that The thought drops my heart into my stomach, so I shake my head and try and change the subject. So, who's this boy we're looking for anyway? Oppa's kid. Ah, little guy out exploring on his own? He's grown, almost as old as us. Helped me drag you back to Oppa's after you arrived. I look down at the smaller Gnoll. Yeah, Taff definitely wouldn't be able to pull that off on his own. I feel my ears stand up, alerted to a low rumble that passes through the ground. Speaking of, that's probably him. Tav leads us off the beaten path into the tree line, and I struggle to keep up with him. Hey, slow down a sec. Either he doesn't hear me, or he is messing with me on purpose, as he forges on ahead anyway. His little body is able to weave through the greenery at a pace that I struggle to match. I arrive out of breath and sputtering as I shoo away the remnants of vegetation that cling to me when I finally catch up with the smaller Gnoll. He stands in a small clearing near a stagnant pond, brow furrowed as he gazes at a tangled mess of plants, debris accumulated in what appears to be a deadfall ahead. Why is he here? Before I have time enough to catch my breath and ask what he means, I'm startled by the sight of a canteen flying through the air. Several wooden bowls and shredded sackcloth bags soon follow it, being tossed haphazardly by whatever currently occupies a dim hollow beneath the deadfall. Tav marches towards it, raising his voice. Hey, drop it! Leave it! He sounds like he's lecturing a misbehaving animal. I force myself to follow after. My deep breaths to regain my stamina soon confront me with an incredibly powerful scent. It's something that I've been picking up hints on the way here, but now I recognize it's most certainly another Gnoll. Presumably it's Oppa's kid. Now I wonder if Tav's been following that scent to guide us here. I hear some back and forth between Tav and another, a deeper voice as I spot the frame of a larger gnoll standing over him, cast in the shadows of the deadfall. Tav seems to have pushed him aside, leaving him to watch as Tav starts struggling to repackage a cache of wicker baskets stashed there. I take a few deep breaths to let that new smell wash over me. These scents seem to be less distracting once I fully process them. That's probably why I haven't really noticed my own scent much, save for a few stray vapors when I reach my arms up to grab some fruits earlier. Closing my eyes to focus, it definitely smells like another gnoll, but this one has such a powerful core musk that the other scents clinging to it can do little to disguise it. The potent earthy aroma almost smells like I'm choking on mud, but there are strange notes to it that I find titillating. Salt and sweat layer atop it to render it sharp and ripe. I get the feeling that anyone can smell this guy coming, not just another gnoll. I open my eyes when I hear the larger gnoll responding to Tav in a tone that carries much of the same gravel that Opus did, but in a younger, greasy timbre. Guessing some critters got at it while we were gone. I was just gonna bring the good bits back for ya. They're all good bits. The big guy scratches his head and idly turns, ears lifting in intrigue as he spots me. Holy shit, he's up! What? No, that's a demon. Tav reaches out to stop the bigger gnoll that's marching eagerly towards me, but gets his arms tangled in the straps attached to one of the baskets and ends up buried beneath as its contents overturn and spill out over him. As he steps out into the sunlight, I get a better look at the gnoll, and I'm a bit surprised by what I see. That voice definitely sounds masculine, and that shaggy bearded face sure seems to match it. But the shape of that body, though heavy-set with a bit of added weight and muscle, is undoubtedly stacked in another direction. And as the golden-furred gnoll approaches, I can confirm with confidence that he's the source of that powerful smell. Demon, huh? Always wanted to scrap with one. I shake my head to try and refocus, raising my paws out up to signal that I don't want to fight. He lets out a gleeful cackle and doubles his approach, reaching me faster than I'd expect given his hefty gait and meeting my paws with his own, interlocking fingers to initiate a grapple. But before I can offer any resistance, I feel the clutch of that damned collar sap the life from me again, leaving me to crumble forwards at his feet from that momentary clash. Face down in the mud. Did I break it? Tav manages to free himself from beneath the toppled baggage to come to my rescue. He's got a demon collar on. He can't hurt anyone. The big Gallop looks mortified. Not even for fun? Tav sighs and unwinds his cord a bit to give me some slack. As I sputter and gasp for air, pushing myself up onto my hands and knees, Tav groans and retreats to the deadfall again. Get him washed up. I'll handle the damn luggage. Once I've wiped the mud out of my eyes, I can see the bigger gnoll squatting down, extending a paw to help me up. I grunt and take it, though as I do I worry that he's just going to take advantage of the grip and paralyze me again. He doesn't though. He helps me up to my feet and gets me steady, leaning in to sniff at me before introducing himself. I'm Stinky. I'm not sure if that's his name or a statement on his personal hygiene. Honestly, it seemed like both. Hi? I hesitate, thrown off by that strange introduction and his continued invasion of my personal space. It takes me a moment to register that I should offer my name in return. I'm Emilio. Are you about done? He halts his wandering sniffer to look up at me, smiling as he realizes what I'm talking about. At the same time, I spot Tav's ears perk up in reaction to my name, causing him to turn and take a long, hard squint at me before returning to his work with a dismissive head shake. Oh, hey, sorry, I just never smelled a demon before. I expected... Brimstone? Yeah. Yeah, I get that a lot. Well, let's get you washed up then. At least a little. He guides me excitedly by the paw over to a small pond nearby. Looking up at his arm, I can see he's got a good mix of muscle and fat on his frame. He's almost as big as me, even though still a good head shorter overall. I kneel at the edge of the pond as he takes the opportunity to look me over from a few different angles. No horns? Barbed tail? Big ol' bat wings? Dang, guess the stories were full of shit. I sigh and lean forward to dunk my head in the water and scrub a bit, pause reflexively, pulling back to comb through my thick, shaggy mane. As I come back up, I pause when I notice my reflection for the first time, carefully studying my own appearance. The gnoll looking back at me has kind of a dumb face, to be honest. If he were part of the bigger group, I'd expect him to be the big, goofy one that ends up the butt of their jokes. My paws reach up to feel at that face, as if to verify it's real. The nostrils flare a bit as I think about the big, black nose in its center. My fingers run through the shaggy, unkempt fur on its jawline that trails back into my mane. Overall, I'd say that Gash was pretty handsome in a lovable oaf kind of way. Honestly, he might have even been my type. But those timid, anxious eyes don't fit him. Those are mine. While they might lend him a bit of a puppy-like innocence, my uncertainty makes them tremble with weakness. I bet the others can tell from my gaze alone that I am not him. I'm roused from my fixation by a footpaw poking at my ribs. Demon dick, huh? All barbed and veiny? No. To be honest, I haven't checked, but I feel confident that I do not have a demon dick. Fairly confident. He cackles, and reaches down to help me up again. His playful ribbing, though a bit invasive, is kind of refreshing compared to Tav's dour animosity. I look back to the deadfall where I can still hear the little guy scouring around. You think he needs help in there? Probably, but I just get in the way again. Don't know what half of that stuff is. I take a closer look at the deadfall, wondering if this is some kind of weird forest stash hidden away out here. What is this place anyway? Oh, it's where I found you two the other day. Found us? Yeah, after you passed out in the Wombwood, he managed to drag you out and haul you as far as he could, but I could tell that he was at his limits. Every answer just raises more questions. What the hell is a Wombwood? He gestures past the pond opposite of the way that we came. The forest we're skirting around. It's all spooky in there. Spooky? Yeah, like everyone's dead and I want to go home spooky. Alright, real spooky then. It is. We're still on the edge of it here though. The real nasty critters don't wander this far out. Keeps the Imperials away though, so it's good for that at least. Frustrated cursing cuts through our little chat as Tav continues his labor. I'd better give him a hand. I turn to excuse myself from the conversation. Stinky gives me an encouraging swat on the rump before I go, offering a grin and a pair of thumbs up as I yip and turn back. You can do it! Whatever it is. I grumble a half-hearted thanks for the encouragement and turn back to resume my approach. Inside the cave-like pocket created beneath the fallen forest vegetation, I see all manner of household goods tumbled out on the ground. Tav squats low, meticulously sorting and repacking them back into the covered wicker baskets that they came from. I recognize this place from my dream where Tav tended to me. And that's when it really sets in. It wasn't me that he was doing all that for. I look down over him, biting my lip as I re-evaluate that tender, vulnerable moment that we shared. It wasn't earned. I stole it. Gash didn't even get to say goodbye, did he? He didn't get to hear Tav's feelings at the end. I start to feel dizzy, bracing myself against the mouth of the deadfall. Tav looks up at me with an annoyed expression that demands that I explain myself. I don't know what to say. I'm such an idiot. It feels like the walls are closing in around me, like musty roots of this dreary deadfall are crushing the stale air from my very lungs. At least make yourself useful. His voice cuts through to me as I find myself gasping for breath, only earning another incredulous stare from the smaller gnoll. He's still convinced that I'm trying to trick him somehow. The big, scary demon just waiting for him to drop his guard. At least I can breathe again. He shakes his head and pushes one of the filled baskets over towards me. I can tell that it's heavy from how much he strains to move it, but when I reach out to lift the strap, I find it effortless to heft over my shoulder. He finishes packing up the other one and pushes it back up for me to load up, with the other securing the last few items in a satchel that he keeps for himself. He looks through it to verify its contents briefly, sighing in relief after he finishes. What's in there? The most important cargo. He keeps his explanation brief and frustratingly vague, but my gormless expression seems to pressure an answer out of him. Letters, okay? We're the only means of communication between the Shattertusk and the gnolls still trapped in the Empire. I can tell my look of absentia speaks volumes on my comprehension, prompting another frustrated groan from the little gnoll. Look, I can't babysit you and explain the whole world to you. He reaches into his pack and fishes out that journal that he was writing in before. Here, you can hold on to this until we get back into the village. Maybe reading that will help you understand the world of the living. You can read, can you? Of course I can read. I really hope that I can read. Once we've got everything loaded up, we head back towards Opa's hut with Stinky in tow. I briefly wonder why Stinky isn't helping to carry anything, but surprisingly the cargo isn't much of a burden at all for me. This body really is pretty burly. Having Stinky along for the walk back really does liven the mood, keeping the atmosphere light with casual banter and mercifully actually answering my questions. He's kind of a lot at first, but I find that he's starting to grow on me now that I'm used to the smell. From the way that he tells it, this wombwood is a country-sized blight on the land that the otherwise unflappable Imperials won't touch with a 10-mile pole. It takes months to circumvent safely, and pretty much all that's on the far side past here is dust and desert, so they have no reason to bother with it. But they can take their empire and shove it undertale. He makes a crude gesture to demonstrate the analogy. Surprisingly, even Tav's mood has improved enough for a bit of sarcasm. Careful, they might say the Emperor hears all. Psst, if he's so almighty, let him strike me down. As if the forest itself has an ear for comedic timing, the gnoll manages to step on and loudly snap a twig beneath him just after his proclamation. This causes a decidedly undignified yelp to escape him as he's startled into a nearby bush. Tav can't help but laugh at the buffoonish display, and I'm inclined to join him, feeling relieved to see him at least a little less grim now. A pair of brown socked paws emerge from the bush, pumping upwards victoriously. Still alive! Suck it, Emperor! We reconvene back at Opa's place, rousing him from a nap I don't think that he intended to take. Mercifully, he's actually dressed this time. Stinky tends to him while Tav inspects the cargo briefly to make sure that I didn't break anything. As Tav starts to take stock of our inventory, I get a bit distracted from the inspection when my ears tune in to the other gnolls' conversation in progress. We get a go with them? Really? Stinky's tail is practically wagging like a pup's. Opus chuckles softly and does his best to settle the boy. Aye, lad. Your gate's nice and empty, right? Yup, every last drop, so I should be good for a few days at least. And we can see him this time, right? I realize my ears have physically swirled around to listen to their conversation, which is probably pretty noticeable and pretty rude. So I shake my head and try to focus on Tav instead. The smaller gnoll shields his eyes as he looks skyward. Should be enough daylight left to make it there before dusk if we hustle. Hopefully, I won't slow you down too much. You get tired, I can always piggyback ya. I've half a mind to offer the same, but I realize that might be a bit awkward with me already handling the cargo. There's still enough life in these old bones of mine to make it to the village. Our journey is pretty quiet for the most part, with only occasional color commentary from Stinky to punctuate the sounds of nature as he gets distracted by something or other to scavenge and munch on. Plus a few pee breaks. A lot of them, actually. Stinky insists that the highest mark on a tree means that you own it. I concede all ownership claims. As we get further from the lush vegetation of the forest outskirts, I can't help but ask what's on my mind. Why is the village so far from the forest? It looks pretty dead out here. The further from the Empire, the better. And while there isn't much game, we honestly don't need much to survive. Where there's resources, there's competition. I guess that makes sense, but it still feels weird being so disconnected from the rest of the world. Oh, tell him about the canyon! We're almost there. He can see it for himself. And indeed, peering forward, I am able to spot what they're referring to. Ahead, the hills drive up into a sharp rise that wraps as far as the eye can see in either direction. You'd be hard-pressed to mount it even with proper climbing gear. But dead ahead of us, a gloomy crevice splits the pass into a slender canyon. It'd be pretty hard to find it if you didn't have someone to guide you to it. Only way to get to the village, lest you go to the flats on the other side. As we get closer, my nose gives me an indication of what's so special about the place. There is an acrid, malodorous aroma like rotten eggs and salt that seems to seep from the canyon itself. I hear Stinky take a deep breath, sighing and letting his tongue hang out as he samples the scent. Ah, brimstone. It's a basalt barrier, our last line of defense against the Imperials. The fumes make them sick. Based on what I'm smelling, I can relate. I don't feel like I'm going to retch or anything, though. Must be that gift Tav mentioned. Oppa smiles and pats my tummy. But gnolls are made of sterner stuff, eh? I try and offer him a smile and thanks for the reassurance, but my heart isn't in it. Even though the canyon walls are wide enough apart to pass through easily, somehow they still feel too close for comfort. The strange hexagonal columns that make up the canyon catch my eye. They jut up sharply to form the canyon walls on either side. They must be some sort of bizarre natural formation, providing uneven steps for such to tread across. For some reason, I just can't shake the feeling that those walls are going to collapse in around me at any moment. I try to focus on just moving forward, ignoring the unease rising in my chest. I ignore the tremor in my legs that makes it difficult to walk. I ignore my ragged, ill-paced breathing, which only further overwhelms me with that sulfurous stench. Tav looks over his shoulder and notices me falling behind. He moves to tap on the leash wound around his wrist to encourage me to catch up. But he stops when he catches sight of my face. I don't know what he sees there, but it's enough. He backtracks a bit and places his paws on my shoulders, settling my breathing. Come on, Emilio. We're burning daylight. It's not exactly the most gentle guidance he could offer, but it's the first time that he's called me by my name. Even that little nudge helps me push through. He takes me by the palm more gently than I expected. He gives it a soft squeeze and I squeeze back. I can't see his face as he walks on ahead, but I hope that he is not too upset with me. I wish that I wasn't such a burden. Here I am, the person that he hates the most in the world, the one who took Gash away from him, helpless as a babe and dragging down everyone around him. I just want to get this over with. As we break through the other side of the canyon and the noxious reek of the brimstone begins to abate, I see the trio that I'm traveling with bathed in the twilit of hues of the golden hour. Stinky bounces from foot to foot as he eagerly points out the village outskirts in the distance. Oppa chuckles and reminisces about soup. But Tav still has that distant look. The village up ahead, that's where we'll end things. Part of me wants to stay here with them. But that's just selfish of me, isn't it? I'm such an idiot. The others start making their way down into the village proper, a day's journey finally at an end. I'm not ready for this to end. And that's the end of what is currently available. So yeah, you are something put into the body of a gnoll who used to be Gash, who apparently was either friends or more with Tav, and you were friends with Stinky, and Oppa. So yeah, I wonder how this is gonna go. I mean, based on the cheerful music, it's not gonna be so dour, so depressing. My guess is you and the rest of the group are gonna have to find a way to try to see if, if there is a way to exercise you out of this body and see if Gash can go back into the body, if he is still there. It would be interesting if the reason why you, the person who is inhabiting the gnoll body, has these feelings for Tav is because technically Gash is still in there, but he just isn't the prominent soul or personality or whatever. He's just sort of stored away to make room for you, and that's why you feel the way that you would think that the other person would originally feel. That's probably my that's my my theory, my visual novel game theory. It's also probable that the reason he's feeling this way is, like, he's saying that he has scent memory, or at least the body has scent memory. So the scent of Tav reminds him that he is supposed to feel that way about Tav, in a way. So maybe that's why he's feeling that way, that these are not really how he feels. This is how the gnoll body would originally feel. Or the gnoll would originally feel towards that scent, I guess. Because, I mean, these guys seem to be heavily scent focused. Which I suppose is a thing for animals, I mean, in a way. Like blind... Like, I've seen some videos of some TikTok videos of a blind and deaf dog who recognizes their owners by scent, and, like, the other dogs that he lives with. And he gets all excited when, like, oh, like, I found, like, my humans, they were right here. Like, he gets all excited. And when he's playing with the other dogs, like, he goes by scent. Like, he can't see or hear them, even though the other dogs are, like, barking at him or something like that. But when he knows that they're there, like, he starts playing, he gets all excited. So maybe, like, for gnolls, it's like the sense is like, oh, I recognize this scent. So the body gets excited or it gets sad because it can recognize the hormones of, like, a sad person or a sad gnoll or something. I don't know. Anyways, I also think that this story is kind of based on a D&D campaign or something D&D related that the creators, along with Dead Stray Bear, were doing, I think. I'm not exactly sure. I might be confusing it, because I do see that Dead Stray Bear posts a lot of gnoll related stuff, and I do remember one that looked very similar to Oppa. But we'll see. I don't know. If it is, it would be very interesting to see other D&D based races show up. But yeah, anyways, so yeah. Write down in the comments what you think, and channel members, look at you guys on the bottom. Aw, thank you all so much for deciding to become channel members and support the channel. It really helps. It actually really does help. And it does help with the, I guess you could call it the production of these videos. Helping me get better equipment and, well, yeah, basically helping me get better equipment, which makes the editing process faster. Yeah, like, you guys, yay. Like, thank you for deciding to be members. It is very, very appreciated. Like really, you guys don't know how much appreciated it is. But yeah, so everyone else, thank you all for watching / listening. And if you would like to play Gnoll Way Home yourself, or if you would like to stay up to date with it or whatever, I will be posting down the Twitter link in the description, as well as any way to support the project, as they do have one already. But the Twitter link should have a direct link to the itch.io page where you can download the game, or you can just go to itch.io and download it yourself from there. Also, I do have coffee, other stuff, in case you don't want to support through channel members, but you do want to do like a one-time donation. You can do so by going down to the all my pertinent links are right there. They always are in the description, along with the visual novel that I happen to be reading at the time's links. So yeah, so I guess that's it for now, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.